Back to the channel, guys. Just thought I would try something a little bit different and do a weekend wrap. To be solo these videos for the next few weeks. We'll just see how it goes, see how you guys like it. Just go through each game, have a quick talking point about it and move on. So obviously last Thursday was round 2 kickoff, and that was the Penrith versus the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Penrith are up 16-10. Close fought game. Penrith looked pretty much in control for the whole game, in my opinion. South were really brave to stay in the contest and almost get back within level points for the last 10 minutes or so. They sort of turned it on late. Obviously, this game sort of was shadowed by the controversy that happened at the end. We'll talk about that a bit later. Once again, really ashamed to see that. Being pretty vocal about that since it happened. There's no place in our game for it. So hopefully it gets dealt with in the right manner, and we can go back to watching the footy and focusing on that, because apart from that, it was actually a pretty good game to watch. So Penrith get it done, get their first win on the board, which probably relaxed a lot of the people inside the club, the players, coaching staff. And South Sydney have nothing to worry about after that. I think they had a few players out, and to stay within Penrith with the way Penrith were playing, I thought was a really brave effort and promising effort for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Friday, first game, we had the Eels versus the Sharks in a game that pretty entertaining, but I think both teams, there was 26-30, so Sharks got that done, but in my opinion, both teams were pretty disappointed with defence, leaking that many points. Especially being two top 4 teams from last year, there would have been a big focus on defence in the pre-season, and haven't really seen that yet, because both teams are probably, I think they're last and second last in terms of defence so far this year after 2 weeks. The Eels shot out to an early lead. I think they're up 10-0 after 6 minutes, and you thought this is going to be a pretty big game, or pretty big day for the Eels. And then Gutho gets sent for a HIA, which is sort of the first big talking point, because when you watched it back, it was pretty much whiplash that he was getting to the HIA for, and I think you could tell straight away he was perfectly fine, and the independent doctor, which we've already had multiple discussions about, wants to come back into the game and send him off, where if it was anything, if he's going off for a HIA, what happens to the Cronulla player that actually, I think it was Ramian that did the hit? Nothing. So if they're deeming that it was a high shot, then I'm not too sure how the Cronulla Sharks player ends up staying on the field. But back to the game, and I thought it was good work by the Sharks to actually keep turning up, especially early on, and basically any time Parramatta got some sort of a lead or got ahead of the game and got some momentum, Sharks just were there and just did enough to stay in the game, and then overpowered him in the end. I thought Will Kennedy was really good for the Sharks. He was just popping up everywhere. Sort of like a Billy Slater-esque sort of game by him. Anytime there was a half break, he was there, and I really thought the Eels got shown up. Their edge defence at the moment for mine is shocking. It's a real worry, especially with both edges sort of not coming back yet, and I'm not too sure what they're going to do there, but there's definitely some massive holes, and we don't get Lane back for a few weeks, and I don't know what the Eels will do there, but it was a pretty shameful effort in my opinion. Broncos and Cowboys, arguably the game of the round, I thought, and it was a classic. Broncos got away in the end from the Cowboys, but it was a really close contest. Both teams were up for it. I thought Cowboys started really well, and I thought we saw from the Broncos this year is that they're going to always be in the contest. I think the Broncos of old would, after the Cowboys start, probably fall away in this game and put in the too hard basket. We'll go back and verse an easier team and get the points in weeks to come. But they stayed in it, which was really promising. I thought Reece Walsh was the difference. Once again, another fullback for this week, who I thought the fullbacks played fantastic all weekend. He was the central point. He was the difference. Fitting that he got the try towards the end of the game. I think this game sort of showed you that there's a real chance there. The Broncos are a top 4 team this year. They got all the right ingredients, some good young hungry forwards. We already know how good Payne Haas and Carrigan is. I thought Ricky really stood up as well, which is a good sign. Flegler played a really good game coming off the bench. The big talking point from this game was the Drinkwater moment where he breaks Oates' jaw down the sideline going for that try, which he ended up getting, which was a really good finish by Oates. But the Drinkwater one, I find this one really interesting, and I know he got sent to the sin bin, but I can sort of warrant it should have been a send-off, because he's done enough damage to have Oates out for the game. Now, I know that they were able to bring on the 18th man, and that was Jesse Arthurs, luckily, so a like-for-like sort of replacement. But Drinkwater did enough damage to have that player out for the rest of the game, where, in my opinion, if you do something like that, the player who instigates that and does the damage should be getting the same penalty. Now, we don't know at the time when they're getting sin bin what the damage is. So, in my opinion, if a player gets sin bin, and in that 10-minute time frame, the other club comes out and says that player's out for the game, broken jaw or whatever the damage is, that message should be relayed to the player in the sin bin and told it's a send-off and he's not coming back in the game. Don't know what you guys think about that one, but hit me back. Let me know what you think. I just feel like it's undoing the team who gets that injury, and that other player can come back after 10 minutes. We've seen lately that 10-minute period, a lot of teams step up there and actually can defend that pretty well, and there's not much of an advantage. So, see what happens. The first Saturday game, Roosters versus Warriors. I thought this was a game, for mine, the Warriors really had one that got away. I thought they were coming, they kept coming, but they just kept losing the ball, silly mistakes. Roosters were good enough to get this job done. They just weren't, not the Roosters yet that we're expecting. A couple of times where the drawing pass to the fullback, Teddy dropped one and Swiley didn't pass the other one, but yeah, they're not there yet, the Roosters. I know there's a couple of injuries there in the forward pack, and I think they've got some new signings which we'll touch on shortly, but yeah, I think it's a game the Warriors really wish they probably got done. They was right there and able to get that done if they just sort of nailed a few moments. Dolphins versus the Raiders, I thought was a brilliant wet weather game of footy. I always loved to see that wet weather footy again. I just want to put a special shout out there to Hammerside, Tabardai Fido and Tom Gilbert. I thought they were both really, really good for the Dolphins. I thought they were the two main reasons why they kept in. And I think Nichols off the bench had another big game as well. But the Hammer just showed, I don't know, when they first signed him, I wasn't sure about him at fullback, but he's been really tough, and he's on the kicking game. He's exactly where a fullback needs to be almost every single kick, and he gets there and gets it done. His support play in attack, again, is second to none. It's already up there with some of the better fullbacks in the game, and if he keeps this up, he will no doubt be a top 5 fullback by the end of this season. And it's going to be an interesting one for the Dolphins next year with Farnworth signing as a fullback. No doubt Farnworth has some talent, but if the Hammer keeps this going, Wayne Bennett and Christian Wolf are going to have some headaches on their hands in the off-season. The last one to come out of this one, I think the Sullivan sin bin. I think most rugby league fans are just shaking their head when this happened. It literally was a poor option, a poor kick by Harry Ranara. I thought he chose the easy option of sort of getting a bit of contact and going down. Credit to him, the video ref, we shouldn't say the video, the bunker, and brought it, ended up getting that penalty off it, and Sullivan got sent to the sin bin. And I thought that was just a disgusting decision. I just didn't think Sullivan did anything at all. He just sort of turned to chase, and they collided in as I said, a milk. Canberra Milk go back and sponsor the Raiders because I feel like that was a horrible decision. Storm and the Dogs finally get one done after Brookvale's massacre last week. It was just the Storm. You could tell by Bellamy, he just wasn't happy. It wasn't the Storm we're used to seeing. I know they've got some players out, but is this a sort of a preview to what's to come this year? It's too early to write the Storm off. I don't know, after a good win last week, a tough win, they'll get back there. Bellamy won't accept that. He'll drop players who weren't performing. I think there was a couple he didn't want to single out, but you could tell by the performance he wasn't happy with a few, and they've got probably a notice and a warning for future games. The Dogs, they got it done. I think it would have been a better showing if they went on with it in the second half. I think they let the Storm in too much. I don't think Serrato would be too happy with that. I think he's come out and said in radio interviews since that he wasn't too happy with the second half, and they'll just be happy to get the job done. When you got a few of those new players in, they sort of played some key roles. You just want their confidence to be there, and I think they've got that. So great job for the Dogs to go down there, even though it was a depleted Storm side, and just get the 2 points. Sunday games, Tigers, Knights, didn't this have a bit of everything? It was sort of like you're watching the comedy show. Two teams that just sort of didn't know how to get it done. I know the Knights were without a fair few players. It was a brave effort by the Knights. they've got some reasons why yesterday wasn't exactly up to scratch, but they still stood there and got it done in a really gritty performance. The Tigers, who knows? But first of all, before we touch on the Tigers, Ponga, I said this in the preseason, I had a post up about his move from fullback to 5'8", and why I didn't think it was the right decision. I think Miller's a really good signing, but I think he can do what he's doing, say, on the wing or maybe even a centre. But Ponga has to be hidden from the first line defence. He just cannot have it. We've already seen now 2 weeks in a row where he's been in the front line and he's got a concussion from it. The Warriors one was a bit weak, but I just think attack is going to target Kalen Ponga every single week when he's defending in the front line. And as a coach and as a club, you need to see that and see a player struggling with this. And there's only so much that the club can do. And one of those things is change his position on the field to protect him. They're not doing that at the moment. Him at 5'8" isn't protecting him and isn't bringing out the best, I think, for him as a player. I don't think he's a 5'8". I think he's a fullback. He needs to go back to fullback, and that needs to be done sooner rather than later. The Tigers. Where to from the Tigers from here? Because for mine, it was a disgraceful showing. They had the Knights, even when there was the send-off happened, I don't know how a team lost that in the end. It was just a horrible display. I know we keep hearing the Tigers going, we want to go back to the 05, but the game has evolved, and it's now, 15 years almost since 05, and the game is that far away from where that was. I don't think the Tigers of 05 would have gone anywhere near winning this competition this year, and they've gone back. And I'm really worried with first of all, the Tim Sheen selection at coach. I think it should have just been straight to Benji if that's where they want to go, or they should have had like a Des Hasler type coach to come in and just really toughen the place up, because that's what they need. They don't need to be playing flamboyant footy. They need to be playing some tough footy. At the moment, their attack is just nowhere to be seen. So many times yesterday where they had player advantage, they're just going side to side. There's no straight up. There's no direction. But yeah, that's a Tigers problem. And see where we go from here. The last game, the Dragons and the Titans. I thought the Dragons, I was really worried when the Titans got out to that 10 or 12 point lead early on and were in cruise control. I was thinking, well, the critics and the doubters are going to come out hard here, and we're not going to hear the end of this. But credit to the Dragons. I thought the fact that they came back, led by Ben Hunt, which, again, if he keeps going how he is, it could be a Dally M medal year. But they came back and out winning 32-18 in a brilliant showing. The Dragons, I think most teams after the Titans start would have beaten them and got that done. I just think the Titans fell asleep. But as I said, credit to the Dragons. They ended up getting it done in a really gritty performance, which will please not only their coaching staff and players, but their fans who have sort of copped it in the last probably month or two. That'll take some pressure off the back, and it was good to hear them get louder and louder yesterday cheering. Now, just a couple of league points I just wanted to talk about to come out of the weekend that hasn't been touched on yet really by the channel. Brown to the Roosters. Nathan Brown from the Eels has signed for a 1-year deal with the Sydney Roosters, and I know the Roosters will cop a lot of flack for this. How do they fit it under the cap? To joke, blah, blah, blah. And look, I'm all for that, but I want to touch on more so the Eels. And we've seen the last 2 weeks, the Eels have a real problem with their bench forwards, and I thought Nathan Brown would fit that mould perfectly. He'd be able to come on. I've got no doubt he'd be able to do a job on the edges, and we've got a first-grade player there in the team, which obviously isn't there anymore. He's gone, but the Eels had that right there, and I know he's been injured. I know obviously something happened last year. There's rumours swirling what happened, and I don't want to go into that. But I just think you've got to put the club ahead of a personal vendetta there you've got. And it was clear as day we needed someone like Nathan Brown, and he was... Start last year, he was the heart and soul of the forward pack. He would get up and get in their faces and start it. And we've just seen the personal vendetta that's happened. It's, as I said, it's bigger than the club, and it's disappointing to see he's gone to strengthen a team that's struggling early on, and now the Eels are strengthening that. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. The last one is I've copped a little bit from this. The Penrith handling of Thursday night's incident the Latrell of what the teenagers said, the racism part of it. I don't want to go too much into the incident. What I want to go into is how the Penrith Panthers have since come out and dealt with this. Now, social media, these day and age, plays a massive part in what the fans see, what the media see, how it makes clubs look. Now, we've seen a lot of clubs come out in support of Latrell, saying they support the crackdown. They will go into bat and no matter what. Now, the club where I know it wasn't a Penrith fan that did it. It's been come out and said it's a Roosters fan. Roosters were on the front foot and said something about it. But it was at the Penrith home ground. Now, we heard Demetra saying in the presser that it's happened at this ground more than once, and especially to Latrell and to Greg Inglis when he was there. Penrith, for mine, have continued in arrogance with this stance and not come out and shown they're on the front foot with it by even just a simple post or come out in a video, something like that in social media. Social media is huge now. It needed to be done. The fact that it still hasn't been done, and it's 4 days later, for mine just shows the arrogance of the Penrith Panthers. They'll quickly become the most hated club if they're not already by the way they handle things on and off the field, and it's continuing. I'm just personally not impressed by how it happened. It's a massive issue in the game. It's massive what's happening. It should not be in the game or society anymore. And the fact that the Penrith Panthers haven't come out in a stronger stance for this, I know it's ongoing, how they say, it's ongoing, all that sort of stuff, but you just need to put your front foot forward and just show your strong stance on it. I don't think the Penrith Panthers have done this at all. There it is, guys. Hope you enjoyed just a snippet. Get your footy fix on a Monday morning or afternoon whenever you get the chance to listen or hear this or watch this. If you haven't done so already, as we always say, just support the channel, please. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify podcasts, and we've got YouTube as well. Any likes, follows, subscribes, any likes on the Spotify podcast you can do. Goes a long way. We don't ask for any money. It's all free. But the only thing we ask for is just some support that way of supporting the channel so we can achieve where we want to achieve and be a focal point for all your rugby league news and articles. So enjoy your week, guys. We'll be back to preview some of the games towards the end of the week. Enjoy your week ahead. Thank you.